Hello and welcome back to OT, the podcast. We're here to talk about watches, time, and how to spend it. I'm Andy Green.
I'm Felix Schultz. Andy, I cannot help but notice that you are no longer in a Swiss business hotel. You are back in your fortress of solitude here in Melbourne.
I've been dragged back to Melbourne after a very brief week in Geneva. Not even a full week, 6 days in Geneva.
It's exciting times. Now, I'm impressed by one thing more than perhaps anything else. Lots of things I'm impressed by.
Can I guess what it was?
Let's get the nice politeness of like your coverage, the quality of the videos that we've been putting out, all this stuff, like that motorbike just scooting past in the background, all this stuff. What do you think I'm most impressed by?
Is it my custom embroidery on the cuff of my shirts or my houndstooth jacket, which everyone loved?
Neither of those things, sadly.
Damn.
Sorry. It is your impeccable flight, sleep schedule, jet lag strategy.
Yeah, I'll share it. So for those that haven't done Australia to Europe or to Geneva, it's a good 24-hour journey. That's best case. It's 24 hours of sort of travel. And
it's about 8 to 10 on the first leg and then 12 to 14 on the second?
Other way around. It's 14-ish. Okay. Well, I went via Qatar, Doha. So it's sort of like 13, 14, and then it's like 7 to 8 on the second with a 4-hour stopover. So you land right on sort of 24, 25 hours.
But hang on. So I was coming back. Okay, whatever. I don't know.
You just flip it to come back. So the strategy is you just stay up until it's bedtime for wherever you're going. You just push through. For me, it was sort of basically 2 days up. And that point, regardless of the time, regardless of the light, regardless of what you're used to, you're that exhausted that you're going to sleep. Even if it's for 5 hours, 6 hours, you're going to be so exhausted that you sleep. So that's exactly what I did.
Yeah, and you came back on the Sunday, I believe, and on the Monday you're like, hey, how you going? What's going on? And I'm like, are you conscious at this time? And he's like, yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah, I landed about midnight and I got home and in bed around 2 a.m.
Yeah.
Slept through till 10, which is granted a sleep in for me, but then, back at it. No issues.
Good as gold.
Ready to roll.
Yeah, and I was texting you on the flight and you were like alert and cogent and you were watching perhaps one of the greatest limited series ever made, The Night Manager.
I was sat next to Nick Kenyon on the flight back.
From Boss Hunting.
And OT alum. We'll link that up. Yep. So that chat lasted the short leg, and then on the long leg, I had to get into a bit of TV. So I finally got on The Night Manager. We talked about slow horses previously, and that's how I ended up getting recommended The Night Manager in our Discord.
Can I just say I've been recommending you watch The Night Manager for quite some time, but I don't want to push it.
It's not a valid recommendation until at least someone else in our Discord does. Then I'll value it.
Wow. I think it's incredible. It's such a stacked cast. Couple of IWCs in there, I believe. Yeah,
really stacked cast, really good. The only thing is it's short, so
terrifying though. It's really tense.
It is. I'm sort of 2 and a bit episodes in.
Oh, you haven't finished?
No, I didn't finish it.
You're still in the happy moments.
I'm in the happy phase. Yeah. I made my way through a couple of other films. Regrettable experiences on the flight, and then I don't know, I was just chatting with you like normal for the rest of it and just thinking about the week that was.
Locking in some important calendar events. Hey, this episode we're going to be last week we talked about Cartier exclusively. This week we're going to chat about Cartier in a second. We're also going to cover off some of the other major players from Watches and Wonders 2024 and some of the more discussed releases. But first, let's have a quick recap on the Cartier Privé collection, because this episode of OT is in partnership with Cartier. So we'll be, hearing about their stuff for the next few weeks. Andy, Cartier Privé. We know what it is. It's the Tort or Tortue?
Tortue, yeah.
Tortue. So that's the Privé collection. It's their sort of top-tier collector-focused line of, very limited, very special pieces. It's in its 8th installment at the moment, and I'm really, really glad they got to the Tortue, because it's one of the earliest sort of case shapes that Cartier's ever done. I think they did it in
1928.
Well, the chronograph was 1928. The original time only was like 1912, 1914. Pretty...
Yeah, it's really one of their first watch designs.
Yeah.
like wristwatch designs. Really cool. I had the pleasure of seeing, I think, all the medals, and in both the chronograph and the time only. So there's
Is it the diamond one?
no, that was the only one I didn't see. It might have been on display and I missed it, but it wasn't. Yep. It didn't come out. So there's I think the time only is limited of 200 in platinum and yellow gold, and then the diamond is limited to 50. So a little
50,
bit.
That's right. And the chronos are each, the platinum and the yellow gold are 200 each. So there's, hang on, what's the maths on that? That's 850.
Yep.
It's pretty limited.
That's quite limited, and I think they're going to go like hotcakes. It was cool. So they had at the booth, they had the original 1920s version on one side, and on the other side they had the current, and you could really see the evolution that had taken over time. It's very true to the original. Obviously, it's a bit bigger, but having the opportunity to chat to actually the senior watch designer at Cartier who designed it, back then they made dials quite differently. So you kind of just paint straight onto the dial of the watch. There was no
they press a blank and paint on it.
Straight onto like the dial plate, I guess you'd call it now, whereas now sort of, a dial that's mounted onto something. So you have that.
You'll be able to tell us in depth about how they make their dials, because we've got a little manufacture chat coming up in a few weeks.
Yes, that was part of my journey, was got out to Cartier's manufacture, which was amazing, but separate. So there's that, and then there's the things like shock resistance and water resistance components that add a little bit of extra size to watches. But I mean, I asked him, they made it sort of as true to the original as is possible now. Really nice watch. I posted, I think, on our Instagram as well as my personal Instagram, a bunch of pictures of the Tortue. It got a really good reception as well. A lot of Cartier enthusiasts around the halls were really excited to see it.
Yeah, it's cool.
It is a very cool and really well sized and pretty watch. My pick is probably the yellow gold version, time only.
Can I? We talk about it in depth last episode, so check that out if you haven't seen it already. So the measurements, they're pretty thin. So they're 7.2 mil thin for the time, 10.2 for the chrono, which is good. There's 32 across, 32.9 for the time only, 34.8 for the chrono. How's the size? Like, do they wear big? Do they wear small? Where are they in the for you?
So the diameter, they don't really have lugs. Like, they're very short in the lug, so they wear really nicely. Look, the chrono is a little thicker because it has the extra function.
Sure, it's a chronograph.
It's chronograph. It's a little thicker. Maybe that's why I'm drawn to the time only a little bit more, because it does, 7.2 millimeters is quite slim and it feels very, very, very comfortable. But the chronograph it's not to say the chronograph is big, because it's not a big watch. I mean, they're very much dress watch territory. And they're very, very comfortable. I mean, the weight, even being precious metal, it's not, like a significantly hefty watch. Feels elegant, feels refined. Really, really quite a cool and impressive offering to kind of see out of the Privé collection.
100%. And if you ever get the chance, if they ever sort of, come to your local, Cartier boutique or retailer, they might have a show of them.
We always say it, even if it's a gem set model, like, even if, the models that sit within Privé are just so special and, unique to see. I mean, crazy, only going to happen in Geneva. I think I told you I saw 2 Tank Normals in platinum.
Sure.
Same day. It's limited to...
Totally unrelated people just happened to be wearing them.
Total strangers, limited to 100, and so I saw 2. I think, and they were telling me there was a third one floating around. So,
of course,
it was the highest.
That's it. I mean, that's where people are buying them there as well. So as always, thank you to Cartier for their support of this episode and the next sort of few coming. Please, if you want to find out more about the Tortue or any of their other sort of 2024 releases, head to cartier.com.au, and I would also suggest checking out Cartier Watch Community on Instagram for sort of more exploration of their horological goodness with a, collector focus.
Yeah, it is cool, the old Cartier community. They're
nice.
They're very about it. They're very about it. There's a whole group of enthusiasts out there. Speaking of enthusiasts, so Watches and Wonders, Felix, my first WWG.
WWG. Imagine, oh my God, can you imagine a wrestling event at Watches and Wonders?
Yep.
Which brand do you think this is? Who would like bring in WWE Geneva Watches and Wonders SmackDown for the crown? Oh,
I reckon like Raymond Veal would. They'd probably
Wow,
sponsor it because
no.
they sponsor everything, like whatever they can.
sure. But WWE, it's a big property. Like, you might get The Rock there. Who knows?
Oh no, I think journalist edition. Like if you had Watch
Oh,
Media.
no, I was thinking like getting Stone Cold out there going, this Big Bang is gonna bang you in the face.
You know who I reckon would be good at it?
Who?
Robin Swithenbank.
Wrestling or calling?
Both, but wrestling.
He's too tall.
Exactly. Just with reach on him.
He's got a leg.
He's got reach. He's got reach.
We could do. Yeah, no, he would be good. Yeah. We should work out any journalists or watch industry, personalities listening to this. Please make your suggestions. However, you can reach us for the 2025 Fight Club.
It doesn't even have to be sanctioned. It could be, back of the Novotel, an underground
in
type
the car
thing.
park of the Starling Hotel.
Hold my watch. Yeah, unsanctioned, completely offline.
Yeah.
But yeah, what do you want to know? What do you want to know about my first experience?
Look, let's go through a couple of brands. I think we're probably going to be milking this for, the next 5 years at least, content-wise. No, but let's sort of talk about, because we haven't talked about like the big keynotes of Watches and Wonders, and I want to sort of get your take on the brands, what they released, what you liked, how, all that sort of IRL download. And I think the obvious and only place to start today is perhaps Rolex.
Okay, so Rolex was quite a year for them. Sort of 6 watches on catalogue with a bit of variation, but 6 kind of key features. And then the off-catalogue stuff, which was far more interesting, if you ask me. But it was fascinating. So Rolex booth, from 8 a.m, there's just people lining up. They've got curtains up, and there's just people lining up, watching the windows, waiting for the curtain to be revealed. My favourite thing was there was a lot of speculation this year around Rolex discontinuing the Pepsi.
Yep.
Everyone was focused on the windows. I wandered about 20 metres further, and there was a big model of the Pepsi on the wall. So I thought it's probably safe if they've got a model of the watch in human size on the wall, which it was. But the big small talking point, it's the watch, what are they calling it? The Bruce Wayne, which is just a black and grey GMT Master.
Is that what they're calling it?
Yeah, the Bruce Wayne, I guess, because you got the Batman. I don't know. Saw that on Jubilee, black grey bezel, reminiscent of the previous black bezel. Not a huge amount has changed from the current steel offerings.
See, from my point of view, and if that wasn't the big talking point for me, everyone I sort of interacted with online or, was excited. It was a 1908. Yeah,
okay. So the 1908 in platinum,
yes,
ice blue dial. So Rolex reserved the ice blue dial for their platinum models. Got a 1908, sort of small seconds fella, platinum. It was cool, but it didn't wow me.
There's a few things that are interesting about this,
Okay.
and I'll be interested on your take on this. So it's a rice grain guilloche dial, and it's apparently actual guilloche, not stamped.
Yes, yeah, it is.
And I don't think it can't be sort of like one dude, one dial hand. Like it must be a slightly more industrialized process, but on a Rose engine. Maybe closer to how AP does it or whatever.
Yeah.
Which is unusual. Like Rolex are a pretty industrial sort of.
Yes and no. I mean, the gem setting's very manual. This won't be high. I mean, the 1908 are not. I almost called the Cellini, but the 1908 is not a high volume product, and platinum models are not high volume. So I expect this to be very, very rare to see in person.
It's cool. I think it's a nice change of pace.
Yeah.
And maybe the thing for me that's more telling about it is that if I'm seeing that's what people been most excited about, that means it's a pretty pared back year for Rolex.
100%.
Perhaps.
I think most brands had a very pared back year. They're sort of all sensitive to the economy and the mid-market being very impacted by that, and it's a very competitive segment as is. So the read Well, the read I got from brands and directly told was they're focusing on the high end because you're probably not impacted by economic changes.
And I think on top of that, everyone kind of went all out last year. Like there was a lot last year.
That too. But brands were openly sort of saying we're not releasing too much. We don't want to overwhelm our base. The other Rolex, just because cautious of time, the all gold, yellow gold, deep sea.
What do you think?
I thought it was a bit ridiculous, coming in at about 330 grams from memory.
Yeah,
and that's with a titanium case back, so it'd be even more so without.
380 grams with.
Yeah, I saw this and I just thought, this is bizarre. It's gaudy. It makes no sense. And then I thought, the Yachtmaster 2 was a relatively popular watch. That's been discontinued.
True.
If it was me, I would much rather be selling people this. It's a much more respectable big gold watch from Rolex than the Yachtmaster 2, which has Yachtmaster written on the bezel and is just so out of touch with where the brand is right now.
Sure, it's an interesting point. Yeah, I buy that.
You'd feel better selling this than those Yachtmaster 2s. No offense to the fans.
It's a very technically impressive complication.
Yeah, so I don't know what they're going to do to replace that complication. Because obviously it's different to this, but I think they're banking on most people not caring or using it for timing their yachts. And
they've got those titanium Yachtmasters now.
Yeah, but you could pull this watch off in the right setting. Like you've got a big meaty wrist.
Sure.
You could pull it off. It's not enormous.
Yeah.
And it's kind of wild, but there will be a big market for it.
Yeah. I can kind of see the appeal of a big FU solid gold watch that's stupid and I can see the appeal. I don't.
100%. I didn't see it at the start, and then I thought about it for a moment, and I thought, yep. Otherwise,
can I? While we're talking about heavy watches, this is I don't want to dig into this, but I was looking at some of the key stats for the new Vacheron Constantin most complicated watch in the world, pocket watch, 63 complications, one off for some rich dude. Do you want to guess how much that weighs?
How much?
Just under a kilo.
Wow.
It's it's a brick. It's half a brick of watch.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah. Anyway, any other sort of Rolex thoughts and feelings? Like, what was it? How did you find the booth experience? Like, were you able to wander up and?
No, it was very, very controlled.
Sure.
They had a couple of new day-date dials, a little bit of change there. Changed the markers on one of the day-date 40. So the 10 is, I don't know, it's a little change. The mother of pearl Daytona.
I like those.
Yeah, so weird. One of my questions, which I didn't get answered, was
I'm sure they'll get back to you.
Yeah, they usually do. Was the mother of pearl comes with a diamond bezel version on Oyster Flex or on a bracelet. Obviously white gold, but it didn't have baguette diamonds on the bezel. It had sort of brilliant cuts, which is just a different choice. So I don't know why. Few people have noticed. I'm curious to know why. More curious is the fact that they released it on catalogue as opposed to off catalogue, because it's sort of.
I've got two theories as to why the diamonds are like that.
Mm-hmm.
Cheaper and more obvious.
I don't want to agree with you, but maybe.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's a choice. It's not like
it's not an accident.
No, and I mean it's a mother of pearl dial with, it's a bit more of an obvious watch. It's less of an understated piece. The brilliant cuts will shine more. They'll reflect more light.
That's true, also true. And who might care between brilliant cuts and baguettes? But otherwise, pretty. I mean, they did the Le Mans in yellow gold special.
Off catalogue.
Off catalogue. Didn't get to see that in person, but a lot of people did.
Did you see any of the off catalogue stuff?
No, unfortunately not. But
oh well, just wait till your order comes in.
I'll wait until someone around town gets something and I can have a look at it. But it was just a tight collection. Sky Dweller on a Jubilee. Really nice watch. Again, too big for me, but I can see you thoroughly enjoying something like that.
2 new Sky Dwellers. I think there was a couple of different solid gold, couple of dial variations.
Yeah, grey, chocolate, that sort of thing, which
And
is
that
cool.
day-date that was sort of soft launched at the Oscars as well.
Yes, yeah. So quite a year, but deliberate. I mean, they had a massive year last year, so I don't know how they can.
Do you know what I'm most excited by?
What's that?
My theory for the Milgas at the 70th anniversary of CERN. Still going.
Still time. Well, I feel like maybe Rolex are kind of holding back a little bit for threat. Like, I mean, what did they do? Two off-cycle releases last year at least. There was
The other one, the titanium.
the Philharmonic, was it?
Oh, yeah, that special dial.
The special green.
And then there was the Oscars. That was that one from last year. So 3.
Yep, and then the Le Mans. Yeah, so
4.
yeah, so I think they're maybe moving towards stashing a little bit away, but I don't expect heaps. I don't expect heaps.
The other thing, and I haven't sent this to you, I meant to send it to you. We'll put it in the show notes. Everyone should read it. Rolex CEO Jean-Frédéric Dufour's rare interview with NZZ.
I did read this.
Where he sort of, essentially said Swatch should come back.
Well, he said he spoke to the Haig family and got kind of laughed off the screen.
I don't know if laughed off the screen. He was much more diplomatic about it than that. He said, it's their choice and their business.
Yeah, I can't comment on it. But yeah,
we're disappointed, but it's not their strategy. So
that was interesting.
Good interview, really good interview. You should read it.
Short but good. Okay, so anyway, Rolex. And then look, the sentiment around the higher end. The other kind of point I should make before we get into it, because there's a lot of high-end stuff this year, is that these collections were worked down probably 3 to 5 years ago. So the economy was very different. The world was very different. So that's the thing that I guess they're balancing and worth considering.
And look, I'm sure they're like, guys, maybe we should shelve the full diamond Sid Vela model.
Yeah, speaking of crazy diamonds, Patek Philippe.
Oh, yeah.
I got a little opportunity to have a look at what they were doing, but nothing too crazy or hands-on.
Quick question. When you said I got a little opportunity, do you mean you walked past the booth and looked at the glass?
It means I had 30 minutes spare and I walked past the booth and I randomly met a guy who was wearing a Nautilus with the sapphire setting on the bezel.
Sick.
Yeah,
the green ones, those ones?
Blue.
Ooh.
I got a photo somewhere. I think it's on my camera. I have to pull it off. That was cool.
Yep.
I'd never
got
seen
a photo of him and his passport and his identity, and we're going to track him down?
Yeah, he gave me his Instagram.
Sure.
He was very into Pateks and Ferrari. Didn't get hands-on. It was pretty tough. Unless you're a retailer or a very close friend of Patek this year, you didn't...
or they're pretty tough. And certainly for the Australian market, they've always been fairly tight with appointments.
Yeah, so... But the ellipse with the bracelet looks truly stunning. Beautiful watch.
I'm so glad to see that.
Little rich for my liking.
Do you know what? No, I'm kind of surprised that it wasn't terrible.
What's the movement?
It's nothing fancy, but you compare that level of bracelet work, there's 500 pieces in that bracelet and it's a lot of time. You compare that to something by a comparable high watchmaker that offers watches on bracelets. You know what I mean?
That's true. There was a lot of diamonds in the Patek windows, though. Full pavé setting, full baguette set bracelets, even on the sides.
They released some late last year, like a special collection, I think, of high jewelry stuff. So
yeah, well, they had cufflinks and rings.
Yeah,
and so did Rolex. Actually, Rolex are doing the matching cufflink thing apparently.
You've always been able to do the Patek cufflinks.
The Patek cufflinks have been around $6,000 for cufflinks, but Rolex are sort of apparently doing that. But back to Patek. They had heaps on display. Nothing super new.
What do you think of? Did you see the denim through the glass?
Yes.
So it's calf, but with a denim pattern.
Yeah.
Wild.
Patek does sporty on their sports watch.
Can I? So I wrote up Patek. That's what my job was at 9 a.m. Swiss time.
Fun.
Fucking bashing out 1,500 words of press release churn. And of the 13 or 14 watches released, there is one that is my clear favourite.
Okay.
It is the Aquanaut Travel Time 5269R. This is a 38.8 rose gold. Looks like yellow gold there. I could have been wrong. blue dialed Aquanaut with a, sort of matching strap. Quartz movement.
It's quartz.
Yeah.
Oh, this is the smaller one, right?
Yeah. I think that's such a, I love the Aquanaut. I love it because it's such a wearable size and a, genuinely good, comfortable watch. GMT, good integration of it. That's nice. Just do a quartz movement. You don't need automatic if you're traveling.
Is it skewed toward ladies?
I suspect it is. A pretty traditional brand in a lot of ways.
You don't, although I think they swapped the water resistance. That was a bit of a controversy as well.
Yeah, now they only water resist everything 30 metres.
Yeah, which is kind of
weird.
Well, they're sporty watches, but they're not sport watches. But
also, I think there is a lot of, it's one of those watch nerd things of I'm not going to take a bath unless it's rated to 1,000 metres. It's a modern watch, it's been maintained, it's fine. That's the sort of the...
Yeah, even if it was 100 metres, you wouldn't take it 100 metres. You're spot on. I did see this.
We've got Nomos with push-pull crowns that look fine and dressy and are slim, and they're 100, 200 metres.
It's true. This is a nice petrol-y kind of blue, though. It's beautiful. I got to say,
denim blue, I would say.
Maybe, yeah, indigo. The Patek really put on a nice show and package. They really do something that just is classy. The variety yet cohesion that they have within their watch. When you and it's rare to see it, right? Outside of this, there's no fully stacked dealer. There's no collector that has everything. When you see everything together, it's one of the few brands where you go, wow, they can
do everything.
This is really, and it all works together. It all kind of feels like the same brand and extensions of various collections. It's just such a, rare brand to ever see much of, that I don't think you get to experience the cohesion that they have, which is a shame. It's a shame to see how beautiful everything is. And look, I'm not the biggest Patek fan, but it was nice stuff. It was really nice stuff. It's a shame. It's a shame that it is so inaccessible. It is what it is.
Another question that you sort of asked me over the week, or earlier, I can't remember what you asked me. You asked me if I had any FOMO.
Yeah.
The only real sense of FOMO I got was when I saw you were at something with Brian Cox, the physicist, scientist,
not Logan.
Not Succession. What was that about?
IWC. So they came out with a pretty special brand new complication, the Eternal Calendar, which is accurate to, I think, 45 million years.
Sure.
You can, whenever you need to replace the date wheel. So apparently you get, it's the same with the perpetual calendars. Apparently you get spare date wheels and you just take it in, or your kids' take it in and can swap it over.
That kind of sucks because that puts the onus on you.
Yeah, you got to hang on to these. Well,
you know what I mean?
Fourth generation has to hang on to the date wheel. I'm sure if you lost it, they'd replace it. So they had Brian Cox to sort of talk about the concept of time with Chris Granger-Hurt.
Yeah.
It was good. It was really, it was the only keynote I caught, and it was nice to step out of the mayhem. 30 minutes.
Is he involved with the brand formally? Do you know, or was he just there as a sort of a speaker to, have a lecture on time?
Honestly, I'll have to double check. I think it's those early days friend of vibes.
Right, sure. And he's a good get. He's a cool.
He's got it. Yeah. He's got a following. He's a deal, especially in the UK. Really, it's just nice to kind of break.
My son loves him.
There you go. Nice to break from the regular stuff that happens. But IWC's booth pumping the whole time. I spent a lot of time there because I got 3 interviews that will run in a little bit.
3 and 3.
3 and 3.
I'm like, of course they're free.
Yeah, but the talking points with the sort of the ice blue dial and the June dial.
Yeah,
they're
nice.
sort of they kind of came out with the colorways this year, really nicely executed.
Subtle refinements of the Portuguese are overall, which are nice.
Yeah. The whole Portuguese is the focus as far as collection goes, and all the models in the Portuguese family got a refinement to the case, ergonomics, that sort of stuff. So we can run through that in more detail, but really it's Eternal Calendar, June, and ice blue colorways. Nice. It's nice stuff. Definitely one of the winners of the fair. And that was sort of on every front. Another brand that I got to see, I spent a little bit of time with, was Tudor. The
Oh, yeah,
Tudor
nice.
watch.
You're an OG, Andy Tudor Green.
Went home. So I saw the Pink Dial Black Bay Chrono, which was released not that long ago, 6
Couple of
weeks
weeks
ago,
ago.
maybe. Yeah, the Inter Miami. I was going to say Inter Miami.
Yep. David Beckham's team.
The press pics did not do it justice. It's really cool in person. It's tough.
It's hard with pink, isn't it?
It's hard with the pink dial. On the 5-link Tudor bracelet, it's cool. It's cool. I was digging it, and I'm
this?
Yeah.
Forgive me, I don't remember. Is this chrono pretty chunky, or is it a little slimmer?
It's not as. I think it's 14.
It's okay.
It's
With
okay.
the dive one that was a big boy.
Yeah. Oh, this is the Black Bay Chrono. So
okay.
the topic of dive watches and chronos did come up as I was looking at it. If you remember our recent hot take episode.
Yeah.
I listened.
What are you trying to say, Andy?
I got called out. You got called out via me around the snowflake hands on that fella. I covered for you. I smoothed things over.
Look, all I will say is this Tudor rep they know how to get in touch with me, obviously via ot.podcast on Instagram or jump into the Discord.
It could be.
We can take that fight. Maybe this is a wrestling match. Maybe this is how we resolve it.
Snowflake versus Mercedes. But really nice style. Kind of.
They are awesome wrestling names, by the way.
Yeah, Snowflake. It sparked something in me. The rest of the Tudor collection was pretty restrained this year. Obviously,
G&T was nice. The Coke we had to have.
Yeah, the Coke we deserved, maybe. That was a nice sort of colourway, really proved popular. Monochromatic, Black Bay, super nice as well. Sort of, we're at the point 10 years into the Black Bay or so where it's landed at the black on black on black kind of.
Sure.
Similar to the old Submariner, but very different. It's sort of, my first take was like, wow, they've done the Submariner sort of vibe, but then it's got its own identity and it stands on its own, which is impressive and sort of talks to where the Black Bay is now. What else? Oh, they did the full gold on bracelet, the 18K on bracelet. Interesting, because I think they might sell more watches putting it on a bracelet instead of having it off the bracelet, even though it's, significantly
20 grand more or whatever it is, or.
Yeah, but that proved to be a bit of a crowd hit. I don't know how that translates.
It's a talking point.
It is. It is.
And I swear, again, I don't understand, how Swiss businesses work. They'll have assets on inventory and they need to turn it into something and put it out there and be able to.
My vibe is they did it because they can. I think someone there wanted to go, I reckon we can do this and I reckon we'll sell a few. And it was a challenge that someone wanted to do. It is cool. It's fun. I mean, there's far crazier watches for far crazier money. There's, steel watches that cost the same. So, it's,
look, I think we'll talk about some of the wilder and more interesting stuff next week. We're going to have to come back for, part 3 of Andy's Watches and Wonders wonderful holiday. Can we talk about, I think, what is in a fair that was, I think, lacking any clear winners, like, last year, there was the emoji, the things that everyone talked about. This year, I think there was one brand that was that had the most discussion, certainly online and certainly from afar, certainly in our Discord.
Buckle up, Felix. Let's buckle up. Let's take a few deep breaths.
I'm talking, of course, about Bremont and their specifically the Terra Nova and their new sort of brand identity.
All right. Let's do our best to be fair here and unprovocative. And I think we have
different takes on this a little bit. Like we've talked about it, obviously.
We're invested because Bremont, that's a brand we've been pretty connected to for a long time. You got yours in front of you. Did a lot of work for them over the years. Really, got to know Nick and Giles from the early days.
Davide was on a couple of months ago,
He was on talking about these grand plans, which you've now seen. We had a bunch of their ambassadors on early in the pod.
Sure, yeah.
I'd go to the UK, visit their boutique and see them. Like we
got mates that have had like military things, and it was
always the underdog, and they were doing this whole thing, and I think that's why I think that's why a lot of the community care so much, is because they were this underdog. They had a pretty clear vision. They were doing something, and they did a few things differently. but they were nice people working towards a great goal. And it has seemed to come undone, or at least they've abandoned what their core goals were.
Undone and abandoned. I think, can we talk a little bit for people listening that aren't across this?
Yeah.
What have they done?
Okay, so the big points from me that I gathered anecdotally from the fair and discussions were, because it extends beyond the collection they released, but the big sort of points were Nick and Giles, who were really, core to the brand and core to building those connections. They're pretty much, if not completely out of the business. The last couple of years, they were more friends of the brands, but I think that their sort of ownership and input had been diminishing, and that comes with selling a business. They're no longer doing triptych cases, which was sort of, you got in front of you, one of the core appeals of the MB2.
They're sort of hardened.
They're hardened steel, and they're multi-piece case.
We don't even really do this.
You got to pull that back to your head, yeah. Maybe Steve can zoom in from there if you.
Nah, it's fine. We'll put a picture up or something.
But the triptych case, the hardened steel, and I mean you've got it. Those cases are bloody hard to scratch, and they're really tough. And so that was a lot of the appeal. And you pay a little bit more for a lesser known brand and all that sort of stuff.
It's the storytelling as well.
They sold you on the story, but they were genuinely tough watches. The triptych was a big deal. So that's another point. So they abandoned that. And I mean, the main thing that happened, if you ask me, was they, built this facility, the wing, £20 million apparently. They bought all this machinery, they had patents filed when they were working with like Stephen McDonald, was it? On, new movements, and they wanted to bring UK watchmaking back, and they wanted to do it on some sort of scale. Yeah. That was the goal. Like that was the dream. And we were all there for it. We were there, we were buying the other stuff, we were supportive, because that was the dream. And they weren't there yet. They were getting close, and it felt like they were close. And then the pandemic
there were
happened.
A few challenges along the way, but I think,
of course it was ambitious. Story. And it was ambitious, and maybe it was never going to happen, but that's now off. So
Is that confirmed?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I've heard like rumoured machines have been sold.
Yeah. So I'm hearing that's not happening as well. Sure. They could tell us if we're wrong. Yeah. So that's the sort of the big change.
A few also significant changes from my point of view, and this is one that they've updated the branding, which is fine.
This is the backdrop of the boiling. Yeah. This is the pot. Yeah. So David joined about a year ago. Came on the pod, told us all about the exciting stuff that was going to happen. Sure. But yes, they've updated the branding. They've moved away from the aviation theme, which was the core. That's the core of the story. The plane crashes and the military and the Air Force, all that stuff. The model, the ejection seats, it's core.
Sure.
And it's their brand. They're allowed to do it, right? It's not our brand. But they've left that to more of like a navigation, fieldy, explorer vibe. They've released a bunch of new watches that have mixed responses, and it's at a different price point. They're coming in at about half of what an MB2 costs you off the street. And so it's just all sort of happened. I think it's all just happened at once, if you ask me.
Yeah, it is. It does. Look, we haven't even spoken about the Terra Nova yet. We'll get to that. The branding and all these things, it does feel very Band-Aid rippy-offy. And I think there's been, from a marketing point of view, some missed opportunities. And also he was the other big thing was there at Watches and Wonders. They always had their Bremont townhouse thing after Basel, and they did their own thing that way. But now they're back and they're sort of very much in the, Davide's part of that sort of establishment machinery and positioned it in that sort of way. If it had taken a bit more time, and maybe if there had been some more sort of, even like a video of, Nick and or Giles chatting to Davide about, passing the torch, you know what I mean? Like some nice, pay Hodinkee to write a nice sort of cover story about, shared values and the future of, Bremont as an exploring brand or an adventure brand rather than just an aviation brand. I think that would have been a softer landing. But what I think has happened is they're all really excited and they've got this new stuff and they're like, we're going to make a statement. We're going to have the watch of the fair. It's going to be new and it's going to be, this new Terra Nova collection. Everyone's going to sort of go nuts for it. And they kind of have, but I don't think it's necessarily in the way that they anticipated.
Yeah, and look, I think it just comes back to a lot of media, especially like the people that we know, us, we just invested in the journey, and you help people out because they're good people, and so I think a lot of people have done that for a really long time, and gone and were sort of invested in where it was going, and maybe had let certain things slip over the years, and maybe news of late wasn't really news. Rather, kind of go, okay, maybe we'll leave that. We don't care too much about that.
Yeah, they weren't as cool as they were 8 years ago, but everyone sort of had a soft spot for them, I think, is fair to say.
Everyone has had a soft spot and but they're like been rooting for this underdog. Yeah. And that coincided with, these designs that, and a confusing design and confusing price points, but I don't know that they had a choice. And look, the reality might well be that the mission that they were on was entirely unsustainable, and I suspect it might have been.
Yep. I think it probably
especially for a brand that was heavily reliant on military customers, which buy not at a full price, that's still relatively small. Maybe it was just too ambitious a goal, and they've come in and they said, we actually need someone. We need to do entry level. This higher end stuff is it's costing us too much money. It's not making enough money, or it's unprofitable. We need entry level. We need to crack the entry level market.
100%, and that makes sense.
And we need a brand that appeals to beyond military people, because again, maybe that's isolating the people outside the military. They kind of go,
especially these days.
Yeah, I'm cosplaying or something, and so they go, we need to go broader. We can't tie ourselves to the military, so that's hence the rebrand and that side. And we need something that is more accessible, hence the design, and sort of going for a different price point and cheaper materials and build quality. And so they've had to kind of address a few things all at once. And then in the background, people have gone, oh, Nick and Giles are gone. They've been awful quiet lately. Where were they? Oh, what's happening with this? What's happening? And all of a sudden, it's drawn the wrong attention.
I'll do a quick overview of the Terra Nova, what it is. Boom. Before that, again, we should link it up. Esquire Watches newsletter. Good sort of more positive take on this, like more nuanced.
Yeah, and look, again, just before you get into the Terra Nova, it came out, people came in pretty hot, which is never fair. We've come in a little hot here. Some people positive, some people do like it. You can't deny it. Some people like the designs. That's okay.
And that's my sort of thing to you is this the same situation as Audemars Piguet and the 1159 a few years ago, where it was released 5 years ago now? Everyone hated it. Everyone said, oh, it's Crystal, it's Daniel Wellington, and now it's quite nice.
I think it always
lovely
was.
Dials.
Yeah, I think it was pretty nice when it came out. It was just a bit jarring.
No.
They refined it a little bit, but it's not changed that much. I just think it was a bit.
No, I think they have. They've it was launched with these real flat, simple dials, and then now they've sort of lent into the the fancier techniques and complications. And
they didn't release those really. They changed it to that sort of curved up. This feels worse, but it's at the same time. The people upset, it didn't matter what Bremont released. They probably weren't going to buy it. They weren't going to buy it. And so is this a brand reaching the point in its maturity? And look, it's a 20-year-old brand where they go.
Also, retailers might love these. You never, I don't know, they might sell. So what we're talking about, Terra Nova is inspired by field watches, which is sort of a, general military watch. They are quite a few of them. There's a 38 mil 2 dials, like a black and a sort of a white dial. There's a 40.5 mil with date and a couple of dials, anthracite black or green. There is a chrono, which is 42.5.
Yep.
There's brown, there's black and a rose gold, solid gold one, which is a limited edition, which is, you've got to have an expensive one in the mix. There's a sort of odd, the Terra Nova turning bezel, which has a compass bezel and a power reserve, and that's a couple of dial options. And there's a very limited tourbillon in black DLC titanium. It's a full collection.
The tourbillon's hideous. I'm just going to say that. It's a bad watch.
It's got a very Mont Blanc Geospheres-esque second time zone up the top.
Yeah, don't like that whole thing. That can
38 mil time only, not a bad watch. And I will say I do like the what do they call? They can't use the word Velcro because that's a trademark, but the Velcro straps look cool.
Yeah, look, let's see what happens with Bremont. They've gonna have to listen to the noise that they made. Is it? It's not the game. It's not game over for them. It's not the end. Will it get better? It can only get better.
I'm worried about that big VC investment and capital money doing what capital money does and making its returns as quickly as possible.
Well, that's probably the people thinking that this was a good idea. And so the thing I just come back to is, who thought that this was a good idea? If you knew the brand, you should be able to say this is not a good idea. And I think then that's what people that know the brand and that are sort of, or maybe we think we know the brand and we really didn't. And again, that's the shock. We're just dealing with the fact that we had no idea what this brand is actually about and the people behind it are about. And maybe we're more shocked with that than the actual direction.
I think they're slated to do some updates to the aviation. Like they're doing that rebrand on the aviation line later in the year. That'll be interesting to see. If they end the Martin Baker, I think they'll have real problems.
It's what happens when you sort of abandon your core to go sort of commercial, and maybe it just was built on foundation that was never sustainable, and that's the lesson here, the moral of the story. I don't know. We care more than we should. We care more than we should. It is what it is. We'll see. We'll wait and see what happens.
I should wear this Bremont more.
You really should. Chuck it on an arm strap. No, don't, because they're not sponsoring us. I've got more thoughts. I saw a whole bunch of other stuff and a bunch of other people that we can talk about next week because it was great. Also, got a really cool interview with the head of style and design and heritage,
Pierre Nero.
Great, really cool chat.
That's coming up in a few weeks.
Wish I recorded the whole thing, but couldn't. Again, we're so lucky to have Cartier sponsoring us and supporting us in this week's episode of the podcast. It's an absolute pleasure. They had some stellar releases. Make sure to check them out. We'll be posting the heck out of them all over our channels. Join our Discord and make sure you're telling people about the podcast. And if you're watching it on YouTube, leave a comment, share it, like it.
Cartier.com.au for Cartier, ot.podcast, Instagram, YouTube, Discord, all the usual places. We'll link it up. But thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Thanks for all the feedback that people have been giving us over our stuff recently. So we really appreciate that. And we'll see you next week. I'll see you tomorrow, Andy.
You will. Can't wait.
Will I?
Yes. Yeah. All right. Catch you guys.